You have completed all the racing realms. You have gotten all the AcceleRacers. You have beaten the ultimate race. You are now an AcceleRacer. And after all this, an Acceleron wants to race you. How do you beat him? Here we have to size up our opponent, and since we haven't actually seen an Acceleron race, we have to make a few assumptions. Now, after researching as much as I could about the Accelerons, here is my research. The Accelerons built Highway 35 eons ago, at minimum older than human history. This means that the Accelerons have been racing for centuries, and not only that, their technology is many tiers above ours. And therefore their cars would be way more efficient and faster than ours. This is evident through their creation of the racing realms, and presumably the unlimited source of energy, the Wheel of Power. I, like many other people, would assume that the Accelerons are the pinnacle of perfect drivers. So much time would have passed, and therefore so much more knowledge of racing would be passed down to the younger generations, and perfected over time. The Accelerons are the perfect drivers not only because of time, but because of their identification of certain specific skills needed for driving, which is evident through the racing realms. I would also assume that they try to follow the rules of racing, meaning no AcceleCharges or foul play, evident by them rejecting Acceleron for using AcceleCharges, but also throwing her out of the Acceleron world for doing anything to win, which could imply foul play. In summary, my assumptions are the following. They are the perfect drivers, with driving becoming muscle memory, almost second nature to them. Their cars would be superior to our cars, and they strictly play by the so-called rules. Now, according to these assumptions, it is possible to defeat an Acceleron driver if we exploit their hidden weaknesses. The first potential method to beat the Accelerons is to think outside the box. Now, although the Accelerons are basically the racing gods and may seem impossible to beat, there is a certain way to exploit how the Accelerons race. Since racing would be second nature to the Accelerons, they would be forced into a strict, perfect form of racing, using their skills to perfect their driving on the track. And since they are so strict within their perfect driving, they presumably won't adjust and have a narrow mind on completing the track with just their skills. Here is where we think outside the box. Do you remember that scene in the Ultimate Race where Vert basically skips half the track? Yeah, I think you know where this is going. If we think like an Acceleron and try to be an Acceleron, we will lose simply because we will never be them or be as good as them. Since that happens, we have to think differently. We have to give ourselves an advantage, like skipping out half the track, or potentially going off the track to get to the finish line quicker, somewhat in a similar way to Porkchop and Monkey. If you want one more example, then look at the silencers in the Pipeline realm. They basically avoid all competition and obstacles by staying outside the track. We would have to do something similar to these examples. The second method in which to beat the Accelerons is foul play. Since the Accelerons presumably emphasize the rules of racing, they won't even think of cheating or foul play within our race. Now, be disgusted as you might, this is one of the only ways to win against the Accelerons. They simply don't make mistakes in their racing, and so we have to intervene and make mistakes for them. I would assume that the Accelerons are lacking experience in car fights or stressful one-to-one car driver fights, since they strictly play by the rules and are all about the driving skills. Still, with that being said, we can bump into their cars, obstruct their path, and also use our nitrox to win. While the plan may not allow us to win against the Accelerons, it could increase our chances of holding our own against the racing gods. Anyway, what do you think? What other methods do you think there are? As always, thanks for watching.